Hello and welcome to this week's Go Buff Sports live show. I'm Leo Rivera.
And I'm Xavier McDevitt. Today we got a great show recapping the Rocky Mountain Showdown, previewing the Baylor game, and everything that happened in between.
Starting today's show, let's take you through last week's dominant win by the Buffs over the Rams in the Rocky Mountain Showdown. Here to recap that eventful night is Go Buff Sports' very own Patrick Dawson.
What's up, Buff fans? Patrick Dawson here with Go Buff Sports. I'm at the site of the last Rocky Mountain Showdown until 2029 here at Canvas Stadium in Fort Collins. This game was a 28-9 victory for the Buffs. It started out pretty even. It was 3-0 after the first period, but once the floodgates opened, they just never closed again for the Buffs. Shedeur Sanders threw for over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 of which went to Travis Hunter, who broke the single game record for catches in the Rocky Mountain Showdown, also had 2 touchdowns in the air, also had an interception on defense. He had one of the best games that I've ever seen in person, on TV, period. Other than that, the storylines of this game were the pregame comments that were made preseason, but then became relevant again pregame by Rams quarterback Braden Fowler-Nicolosi and receiver Torrey Horton. They said things along the lines of, we should have murdered them last year. We'll see how far Instagram followers get them. They talked the talk, but they did not walk the walk. Fowler-Nicolosi threw 0 touchdowns, barely surpassed 200 yards, and threw 2 interceptions. Just before the game started, head coach of the Rams, Jay Norvell, got into it with wide receivers coach Jason Phillips of the Buffaloes. They maybe bumped into each other. I didn't really see what happened, but they got into an argument after that. It was pretty heated. And after the game, in the post-game press conference, head coach Deion Sanders said it was a personal, heartfelt, emotional game, and they made it that way. We just want to play some football. Now, the next time we'll see these two teams play football is in 5 years from now. So until then, the trophy remains in Boulder, and I've been Patrick Dawson for Go Buff Sports. Thank you, guys.
The Rocky Mountain Showdown was hardly a showdown last Saturday in Fort Collins. The Buffs completely dismantled the Rams in all 3 phases of the game, winning convincingly 28-9. The Buffs finally managed to establish the run game for the first time this season with 109 rushing yards on 19 carries. What was the most impressive for Colorado was they had success in the run game without their feature back Dallin Hayden, who missed the contest due to injury. Travis Hunter made his case for the Heisman, finishing with 13 receptions for 100 yards and 2 scores, as well as a pivotal interception late in the game to preserve the healthy lead for Colorado. CSU talked the whole week about this being a revenge game, and their talk did not translate on the field whatsoever. In what was the largest attended game in CSU's new stadium, the Rams did not show up. Colorado will move on to play Baylor on Saturday night.
The Rocky Mountain Showdown last week left us with an interaction between CU quarterback Shedeur Sanders and CSU quarterback Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, in which Shedeur called Nicolosi out for talking smack to the team on Instagram. Shedeur would refuse to shake his hand because of this in a moment caused by the build-up tension of these teams prior to the game. The comments CU made about how personal last year's game was led to the Rams to make a lot of comments before this week's game, with one of those which being Braden Fowler-Nicolosi stating, "We'll see how far Instagram followers gets them." Well, safe to say Instagram followers were enough for a 28-9 victory for the Buffs.
Following another Heisman caliber performance from Travis Hunter against Colorado State, he was honored with Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week. Hunter racked up 5 tackles and an interception against the Rams. He is also a nominee for the 2024 Paul Hornung Award, which he won last year, which goes to the athlete who is voted as most versatile player in college football. Let's now take you to Nick Evans with this week's Buff Banner.
How's it going, Buff fans? I am Nick Evans, here to give you this week's edition of Buff Banner. I want to take a step back from all the editorializing on this segment to discuss a question that I had during the Rocky Mountain Showdown. What the heck is Shedeur Sanders wearing on his head? First, let me ask you though, what do you think the coolest helmet in football is? You have the classic Schutt Air Advantage, the Schutt F7, you have the Speed Flex, of course, or the Riddell Revolution Speed, which is not a bucket. I don't care what kids today have to say. I personally love the Vices 02 the most. But you know what near no one will tell you is the coolest helmet regardless of their age? Anything made by Zenith. And I should know. Every single year I played football, I wore a Zenith X2E. And maybe I have nostalgia for it, but I definitely thought it was ugly then, and I still do now. With that being said, the helmet in question that Shedeur is wearing is a Zenith Shadow XR. Yeah, a Zenith. After high school, I never thought I'd see a Zenith again. And think about it, the Riddell Revolution speed in comparison is still loved by the football community. And more importantly, players still wear it. It's just Odell Beckham Jr. and Darius Slay that still wear it at this point. But no NFL player wears a Zenith anymore. Except Nick Chubb during his COVID years. He has since started wearing a Schutt F7 though. And now a number of Zenith athletes right now is almost zero. Actually, I can think of one NFL player who still wears one. Brandon Graham, the defensive veteran for the Eagles. But how often is his name being said these days? I mean, look at that helmet. I miss the 2010s era of football aesthetics, with pink out RG3, Megatron in his bucket, all of OBJ's style. But I do not miss this helmet though, that's for sure. So the next question is, why would Shedeur Sanders, who we can agree puts a lot of time and effort into his appearance, wear a helmet that, well, has no aura? And for that, I would say two reasons. Number one is probably what you're guessing, and that's that the helmet is just safer. Every year, the NFL conducts a series of testing with biomechanical engineers to see just how safe helmets are at the one thing they're supposed to do, protect the brain from hits. This year, they separated the test by position, and as you can see, the results of helmets here are recommended for quarterbacks. It's worth noting, by the way, that the league grandfathers their bans on helmets every year, so once Darius Slay and OBJ retire, we will never see a Rev speed in football ever again. Back to this chart, though, you'll see that the helmet Shedeur is wearing, the Zenith Shadow XR, is safer than the SpeedFlex True, which was his previous helmet. Not by a lot, but you also have to consider the comfort and maneuverability of the helmet, which isn't considered on this chart. It's no secret that Shedeur has taken a bunch of sacks and tackles, one of the most in NCAA football, and I can respect someone that's trying to put their health first, which is why I, for one, love the idea of guardian caps in the NFL. Here's reason number two, though, which you might not have known. The Zenith Shadow XR was Shedeur's helmet at Jackson State. Look at any photo of him, and sure enough, that was his go-to helmet. It's also way more expensive than a SpeedFlex, which nowadays goes for about $85. A Shadow XR in comparison runs about $450. I can respect choosing a safer helmet and maybe reconnect with a style that he used to wear, but man, I do not like the look of that helmet. On the plus side though, Shedeur has the chance to be one of the only Zenith users in the NFL, and maybe sign an NIL deal with him while he's at CU? But that's it for my fashion talk though. I am Nick Evans, and this was this week's Buff Banner. And back to you guys at the desk.
The Buffs are back home this week to face their first Big 12 conference opponent, the Baylor Bears. The Bears have been off to a 2-1 start this year with wins over Tarleton State and Air Force, with their one loss on the year coming to 11th ranked Utah. Baylor has been strong in their pass defense this year, but struggled against the run, allowing an average of 134 yards per game on the ground. The Buffs did a better job of getting their run offense involved against Colorado State, and will have to do that again this week against the Bears to score effectively. The Buffs defense will also have to key in on the Bears run game, as their running back duo of Dawson Pendergrass and Richard Reese have accounted for 284 rush yards in 3 games. A lot of pressure will be on the Buffs front seven to perform this weekend. Finally, looking at our quarterback comparison, Shedeur Sanders leads the Buffs as one of the best quarterbacks in the nation right now, with 999 passing yards, good for 4th in the country, to go along with 9 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. For the Bears, Sawyer Robertson will be starting his second game for the team, and in the limited action we've seen from him so far, he's thrown for 315 yards with 1 touchdown to no interceptions.
The Buffs and the Bears used to play each other when Colorado was in the Big 12. They are renewing their series now that Colorado has returned to the Big 12. Colorado leads the series versus Baylor 9-7 all time, with their last game resulting in a 31-25 loss in Waco in 2010. Former Baylor Regent Buddy Jones had choice words for Colorado in regard to their rumored departure from the Big 12 in 2010. He said Baylor was vastly superior academically, athletically, and religiously to Colorado, and that Baylor's facilities were far superior. These comments certainly set the stage for the Big 12 home opener at Folsom Field Saturday night.
The Buffs will be short-handed in multiple spots on the field on Saturday, just as they were in Fort Collins last week. Safety Shiloh Sanders is still out after undergoing forearm surgery, and defensive tackle Chidozie Nwankwo's status is up in the air after missing last week. New on the report this week is defensive lineman Tureen Carter, who will miss Saturday's game after undergoing surgery. Running back Dallin Hayden's status is also unknown after missing last week, but the duo of Isaiah Augustov and Micah Welch showed they are more than capable of leading the backfield.
As Colorado opens up Big 12 play this season against Baylor, many are wondering why tickets this season are so expensive. The answer is simple as 3 words: the Prime Effect. Since the end of the 2022 season, the Colorado Buffaloes football team, led by head coach Deion Sanders, has been in the spotlight of major media, outlets like ESPN and many more. However, this season, the Buffaloes are the best they have been in many years. After the recent conference alignment, having Colorado play in the Big 12 rather than the Pac-12, the anticipation and excitement for this game is skyrocketing.
For this week's trivia question, we are going to dive into the uniforms for Colorado, which have been a big topic in the Prime era so far, as there have been constantly new uniforms and new combinations every week. The first 15 games of Prime's tenure. The last time Baylor made the trip to Folsom Field was in 1998. What was the uniform combination the Buffs wore in that game? Option A is the classic gold helmets, black jerseys, and gold pants. Option B is black helmet, gold jersey, black pants. Option C is white helmet, gray jersey with gray pants. And option D is gold helmet with black jersey and black pants. Stick around for the answer and we'll reveal it later on in the show.
Now we got our predictions for the game against the Baylor Bears. Personally, I think the Buffs are going to win by a score of 21-17.
I have a score of 27-21 in favor of the Buffs as well. I believe that being homecoming weekend, they're going to come in with lots of energy and ready to defend the home field.
Now I think that the Buffs are going to struggle to start the game. I think the defense is going to come out and they're going to not be firing on all cylinders, but I think that they will make adjustments in the second half and they will shut out the Baylor Bears come second half.
We have a big week for the volleyball team, some golf action, and a few basketball commits all coming up after the break.
And the Colorado men's basketball team picked up their second class of 2025 commit on Wednesday. Ian Inman, a three-star Texas swingman, picked CU over Colorado State after visiting the two programs within the past 2 weeks. He appears to have a nice shot from the perimeter and decent guard skills. The Buffs were hopeful for another Texas guard in four-star Caden Bug Edwards, but later that day, Edwards chose TCU. The Buffs after numerous plot twists.
Colorado women's basketball landed a 2025 recruit of their own on Tuesday with Ariana Goodman. The combo guard committed to the Buffs over a Final Six, including Oklahoma State, Creighton, and others. She averaged roughly 19 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals a game during her junior season at Northside High School in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Our very own Nick Ovens wrote an article with all you need to know about the new commit. For that story and coverage of all our teams, check out the website at scobuffsports.com. We'll see if Goodman can fill in some much-needed minutes in the 2025 lineup as the Buffs look to rebuild this year. All but one starter this offseason is gone.
The CU Buffs volleyball team hosted the Buffs Invitational last weekend against UC Irvine, Wyoming, and Cal. The Buffs went 2-1 over the weekend, winning the Invitational by beating UC Irvine 3-2, Cal 3-0, and ended the weekend with a tough loss to Wyoming 3-1. The Buffs improved to 6-4 on the season and face the CSU Rams tonight at 7 p.m. in the CU Events Center.
When the Colorado volleyball team won the Buffs Invitational Tournament last weekend, they also walked away with 4 tournament awards. Sydney Jordan, Taylor Simpson, and Kayla Payne were all elected to the All-Tournament team, and Taylor Simpson doubled up and won the Most Valuable Player award. Simpson finished the tournament with 122 assists and 21 digs.
The Rocky Mountain Showdown has hit the hardwood as the Buffs and Rams kicked off a 2-game series in volleyball last night. The Buffs made the trip up to Fort Collins, coming off a win on the road last year versus the Rams to close off that series. The Black and Gold wanted to turn that into a win streak. Familiar faces Anna Berkolovich and Kayla Payne made their highlight plays all night, but it was a super tight and competitive match, which included a 32-30 third set victory for the Buffs. At the end of the night, Colorado was victorious in 4 sets, winning 3-1. Tonight, in just about an hour or so's time, the Buffs will take on the Rams once again. This time in Boulder, the Buffs look to avenge last year's home loss to CSU and secure the season sweep in this year's Rocky Mountain Showdown. First serve will be at 7 p.m. Mountain Time at the CU Events Center. You can also catch the game on ESPN+.
The women's soccer team traveled to Oklahoma State Thursday night, leaving the stadium with a 2-1 victory. After a long weather delay, JC Hawley and Hope Lebo were able to secure a win for the Buffs with 2 impressive goals. Notably, goalkeeper Jordan Knights now holds the program record for the longest shutout streak by minutes.
Women's soccer is slated to take on Iowa State Cyclones on September 22nd and then the Baylor Bears on September 26th. CU is heavily favored to win both matches as the Buffs lead in most stats, including shot on goal percentage, and CU has allowed less shots than both teams. With a much stronger strength of schedule and still a much better record and stats, is no surprise that the Buffs are expected to win these games, as women's soccer undoubtedly looks to continue to climb the rankings.
The Buffs tennis team kicked off their season last week in San Francisco at the Battle in the Bay. Aya El Said and Mila Santojevic had a solid showing, winning 2 matches in doubles and combined to win 3 singles matches. This weekend, the other 7 players for the Buffs will travel down to Waco, Texas for the Baylor Invite. Competition in both singles and doubles begins on Friday, with the tournament ending on Sunday.
The Colorado women's golf team started off their season traveling to Washington to compete in the Leadership and Golf Invitational. The Buffs trailed the University of Southern California by 2 strokes on the team leaderboard after the first 2 rounds. The black and gold were not able to keep up their dominant start, finishing the tournament at number 8 on the leaderboard. Senior Maria Edenhagen Harwich was the highest Buff in the individual rankings at number 8 with a tournament score of 2 under par. The team will head to Fort Collins on Monday to compete in the Colonel Wollenberg Graham Classic.
The men's golf team finished 3rd at the Colorado State Rams Masters Invitational. The Buffs had 3 individuals placing in the top 15, including Justin Bywer, who finished tied at number 4. Bywer had an amazing round, shooting 7 under par. Unfortunately, he was not able to keep that pace up as he finished the tournament 6 strokes under par. Bywer's score of 63 in the first round tied the school record for lowest in history, which he has now done 4 times. The Buffs head to Albuquerque to compete in the William H. Tucker Intercollegiate this weekend.
Well, it was a busy week for our club teams. We have some news about our club hockey and soccer teams, along with cross-country updates coming up after this short break.
Who wants to do basketball? Who wants to do football? Who wants to do soccer? Who wants to do volleyball? That's so sick. Did Christian just say videography? Anyone want to do that?
The Colorado men's Division I club hockey team played against the University of Central Oklahoma twice this past weekend. UCO has been one of the best teams in the division, yet lost many of their players and staff after the end of last season. The first game was a shootout, which the Buffs won 5-3. The second game was more competitive, with the game being knotted at 1 going into the third period. The Buffs were able to score the game-winning goal in the third, pushing them past the defending division champions. The Black and Gold traveled to the University of Utah to play against the Utes in a 2-game series, which the game's right here on YouTube channel at ScoBuffSports.com. The men's Division II hockey team played against the Metropolitan State University Denver this past weekend. The game was high scoring and ended with the Buffs falling 3-6. The 2-division hockey team plays their next game on the road against the University of Denver.
The Division I hockey Buffs will be traveling to Utah to face the University of Utah both Friday and Saturday night. The Buffs offense shows promise, as many of the goals made this weekend were made by different players. The number 19 Utes will be kicking off their first game of the season as the Buffs hope to continue their run from sweeping the Bronchos. The game will be at the Salt Lake City Sports Complex in Utah, and puck drop is at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time.
CU men's club soccer took on some in-state rivals over the weekend, though only one of 3 teams emerged victorious. Team Gold had a little issue against Colorado College with a 2-0 win on Saturday, while both Team White and Team Black each fell by lone goals on the road against Air Force and Colorado State, respectively. This weekend, both Team White and Team Black will remain out to take on Regis and Denver U. Before those, some Pioneers visit Boulder on Sunday at 4 p.m. with a date with Team Gold. You can catch that contest from campus's lower athletics field or live on our YouTube channel.
This weekend, the women's club soccer teams are hoping to capitalize at their home and away matches. On Saturday, Team Silver will travel to the University of Colorado Springs to play the Mountain Lions at 1 p.m. On Alpine Field. On Sunday, the Team Gold will host the Air Force Academy at 12 p.m. along with Team Black at 2 p.m. as they take on University of Colorado Springs at the CU Athletics Field.
The Buffs women's cross-country team will be competing this Saturday at the 14th Road Runners Invitational, taking place at Washington Park in Denver. Starting at 9:15 a.m., this will be the second race of the season for the women. They opened their season at the 2024 Wyoming Invite, finishing 3rd overall as a team, with junior Whitney Valenti leading the herd, finishing 11th, and freshman Caroline Melhorn making an impressive mark to her time here at CU Boulder, following close behind in 13th place. This next race should be exciting as the course will be relatively flat, meaning there should be some fast times and potentially personal best. For the Buffs, the men will be in action at Nuttycombe Invitational on Friday, September 27th in Madison, Wisconsin. The rest of the season will be exciting with the introduction of new director Season Carlson to see how he shapes up the Buffs for excellence this season.
It is now time to revisit our trivia question from earlier in the show. As a reminder, we asked which uniform combination the Buffs wore the last time Baylor came to Boulder in 1998. The answer is B, black helmets, gold jerseys, and black pants. This is the only time in the history of the program that they wore this uniform combination, and the Buffs emerged victorious, winning 18-16.
It's time for the tweet of the week. This week's tweet comes from College Football on Fox when Deion Sanders shared a special moment with ScoBuff Sports' very own Balin Weisup. Let's take a look.
Weisup with CU Independent ScoBuff Sports.
How old are you, man?
19.
Proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Proud of you. You give him a one-on-one whenever he wants it. I got you, man.
Kind of along that question, I guess.
I must say it is nice to see some recognition from the program of our young, talented members, and it really feels like the club is starting to get noticed by the CU community.